Hey everybody, it's Will I Am, the BowTie Sober Guy, coming at you live Monday night. What is the date today? The 30th. Can you believe it? It's the 30th of December. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Wow. Another year. It's kind of exciting. I'm sure I'm catching a lot of you people doing some reflecting. And looking forward to the new year. Other people maybe not, but it's an interesting time. I am actually very, very excited about the upcoming year, 2020. And of course, I think I mentioned this one other night. It'll be interesting to see how many companies use that in their marketing slogan with 2020 vision and blah blah blah. So it'll be kind of funny, but. Thanks for jumping on tonight. I'm excited to share with you. As I posted in the title, tonight we're moving on in the acrostic for BowTie living to the I. And the I stands for intentional. Intentionally living, intentionally going about your day. And, before we jump into that, though, just a quick little recap of what we've gone over so far in the last few days. Of course, we start with B, which is our beliefs. And those are the beliefs that are good, they're bad. Regardless, they are our beliefs, and we've carried them with us a great part of our life. Some of them are learned, and some of them we want to unlearn and replace with others. And then from there, we went into O, and that was openness. And are we open to making those changes? Are we open to letting go of some of those things? And are we open to creating this new exciting chapter in our lives that we get to create on this journey that we call life. And then we talked about witness, and witness is looking back and witnessing your life and taking an inventory of what that looks like. Again, all the different events that you may have happened, all the different things that happened to you, that maybe you did, whether it was righting someone, wronging someone, whatever it might be, but really witnessing our whole life as a timeline, and then going through and seeing if we could spot any consistencies of behaviors or patterns that we may have had. And those may have been good patterns, they may have been bad patterns, or things that you want to look at changing. And then, of course, last night we did T. And T was testify to the truth. And the big thing there was just taking personal responsibility and ownership for our part in things that we did in life. And really making amends, offering forgiveness, and going through those very healing parts of our life journey. And so that brings us to tonight with I. And as I mentioned, I is for intentional. And I'm very excited because at this part of our journey, when we get to this, we're really seeing a lot of growth and a lot of healing. And one of the things that I love about this lesson is the awareness that we get to experience each and every day and throughout the day of our behaviors, of our thoughts. That's a big one. I tell you what, I catch myself frequently with thoughts that are not great thoughts, and I'm like, where did that come from? But that's what's really cool, and that's what's really neat about this intentional living, is that now I have this awareness because I've done all these other things up to this point, and now I have an awareness of that and can make a choice. And so I looked up the word intentional to get some definitions, and I love. Hey, Don and Allison, thanks for jumping on. Miss you guys, but thanks for joining me. But I looked up some definitions of what that means, because we all have thoughts about what that kind of means, and there were some good words. I wrote down 5 different words that are kind of synonyms to intentional, and I am just going to share those with you. So one is conscious. So consciously living, intentionally living, consciously living, and really understanding that and bringing it up here. Again, that brings up the word, the awareness that we have, because we're consciously thinking about those things now. Another great word is knowing. Again, because of these exercises and these things that we've gone through so far in BowTie living, and the acrostic and the different things that we put together, we actually now have a better understanding and a better knowing of what that is. A couple other words: deliberate. Another great word, that we get to live deliberately, not just letting life happen to us, but take control of that and take responsibility for that. Another awesome word that is a synonym for intentional is purposeful. And I love that word because there's so much meaning in that word besides just intentional, but living with purpose. That's what I want to do. I don't want to just go through the day and the daily grind and all of that. I really want to live with purpose and finding out what that purpose is and continuing to bring that into my daily interactions with others, rather than, again, just going with the flow and, so purposeful. And then the last one is willful. Again, another great word, where we're making willful decisions based on the things that we've learned through this process so far. And so those are just some definitions about living, with intention. And again, it goes back to knowing and looking back and finding the things that we want to make better, the things that we want to minimize, and the things that we want to improve. And maybe there's some new attitudes, there's some new behaviors, there's some new beliefs and values that you want to embody going forward. And again, I started tonight talking about that. We're coming up to 2020, and this is such a great opportunity because it's one of those times of the year where we really stop and reflect for a lot of people. It's really just another day, but in the end, it's our calendar changes, and we have to write the date differently than we did before. And which is kind of a funny thing. I don't know how long it takes some of you to figure that out. I think 2019, it took me about 11 months to realize that we were still in 2019, or that we were finally in 2019, and could actually write that down when I wrote a date. 2020 will be easier for some reason, I think, just because, it's a new decade and it's an easy number to remember and that kind of thing. So, sorry, tangent. But it's such a great time for us to be able to sit there and really then look back and reflect and then look and see, what do we want to do in 2020? And I did want to share with you one of the things that I'd love to do for those of you that have been jumping on and watching, and or if you've gone back and watched. One of the things that I want to throw out there is, if you're interested in really making 2020 a fantastic year, a new year, a growth year, I'm going to start, offering that service as a coach, as a mentor, and that kind of thing. And if you're interested, please just reach out, and I can share more information on what that looks like. But I just wanted to throw that out there, because 2020 can be your best year yet, and then you can make the following year even better and continue to grow. So one of the things, kind of getting back to the intentional living, is that, we do get to change the way that we live. We get to change our beliefs. We get to change the way we respond to people, the way we react, the way that we relate. That's a great one that I had to really kind of learn and work on, is how I related to others. Because as I shared last night, I set all kinds of unrealistic expectations on others. Not only, and on myself, I did that as well. But, I get to choose to relate to people in a very different way than I did prior to going on this journey. And it's a continual process. It's like we had talked about, is peeling that onion back and getting down to that healthy spirit that I want to get to. And so, but we get to be intentional about it, deliberate, make those conscious decisions now, rather than in the past I would just react in maybe not a very positive way, but a negative way, and react with maybe it was anger or sadness or disappointment. But now I get to be intentional about how I respond to the things that come up and pop up, because we all have things that come up. And I had a friend reach out earlier today, and they had their daughter had a medical kind of emergency that popped up, and we can take that and we can choose to respond to that in one way, in a very negative way, or we can choose and be intentional about how we respond to that in a very good, positive way. And even though it's a tough thing to go through, we can do that. And, our son was home for a few days over the holiday, and he left to go back. He just lives on the other side of Denver, but we don't see him a whole lot. And so he had to leave. And, it's always sad and it's a bummer because we don't see him very often. But again, I got to respond to that in a very different, loving, compassionate, fatherly way, and not, be sad or bummed or anything. So it's really about changing the way that we respond and that we react. Hey, BJ, what's going on, mister? Glad to have you on again tonight. One of the other things, too, about that awareness that we have now is when we are aware, we can then change our intention or our attention to those things, too. So, I'll have a negative pattern pop up through something for whatever reason it pops up, but I have an awareness that I can put attention on that and be intentional about how I react and respond, rather than just, going with the old way, going with the way that never really worked and really is not a real positive experience for others as well. And so I get to put that attention on those things rather than just letting them happen to me. And really that's about me then taking ownership for those things that happen. And that's not to say I don't get sad. That's not to say I don't get angry. That's not to say that I don't get disappointed. Those things all happen. I still have them all day. Not all day, but I have them every day. They pop up based on whatever circumstances or whatever situation I might be in. And that's okay. But because of the work that I've done, because of this process, I've been able to go, I can handle those a little differently than I may have in the past. And that's what really living intentionally gives us the ability to do. So you might be asking, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? Well, part of that is in the work that we've already talked about going through as far as the BowTie and doing that part of the work. Because what that does, that teaches me what my propensities and my past ways of living and the past ways of dealing with that were. And some of them were good and some of them were healthy and some of them were with God in mind and that, but some of them weren't, and they were unhealthy. And they were really encumbering on me. And instead, because of this new awareness and this new intentionality, hey Marty, welcome. Glad to have you join me. But now I get to change the way that I respond and react to those things. But again, how do I do that? Well, there's a few different ways, and there's a big word that's being thrown around a lot today in our society, and it's mindfulness. Mindfulness, and it's a great way, and really what I think mindfulness is it, and it's because of my beliefs in God and that kind of thing. It's really about prayer and meditation. But in the world today, we come up with different words, and I think mindfulness falls into that too. So for me, one of the best things that I can do, it's prayer, it's meditation, and I'm not great at meditation. I try. I actually just downloaded another app the other day that I'm going to try, see if I can get better at it. And but prayer, meditation, and then mindfulness, and really what all that's about is that's about centering ourselves and getting our thoughts off of all the other stuff that comes at us all day long. I mean, we're always getting bombarded with stuff. I mean, we sit, you guys are sitting in front, probably watching this either on your computer or on your cell phone. And we have TV. We have all kinds of things that are vying for our attention and vying for getting us to pay attention to them and to that. And I think we have to be really, really careful. And that's where we have to stop. And we have to do this, I believe, multiple times throughout the day. We should start our day with it, and we should end our day with it. And then as much as we can, put it within our day, within the context of our day. And, a lot of people get really hung up. So let's start, and we'll talk first about prayer. A lot of people get hung up on this, I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to pray. How do I talk to God? How do I do this? Man, I got to tell you, I really believe all he wants is to have an honest to goodness conversation with him. That's really what I believe. it's funny. I actually call him dude a lot. Hey, dude. Or I'll, something will pop up and something will happen and I'll like roll my eyes to the heavens and I'm like, really, dude? And that's just my way of talking to him. It doesn't have to be this big structured thing. And there are great prayers out there. And you know what? I read them. Actually, I downloaded 5 today that I found that I thought were really, really powerful. But prayer is just having a conversation. I know this guy and he's awesome. He talks about how God is his best friend. And I just love that. And you don't have to have some structured conversation with your best friend. You just talk. And that's really what I think prayer is. And for me, prayer is it's raising things up to him in gratitude and being thankful for all that he's given me. But it's also for me just talking to him and saying, help me, guide me, give me the wisdom, give me the strength, and asking for him to come beside me as I walk through whatever I'm walking through. I had shared with you one of the definitions of grace that I love is it's that I can't do it, but I can do it. God can do it through me. And that's what I think prayer is just reaching out and asking God, show me that way. Direct my thinking, direct my actions. And he's always there. He never leaves. I shared this the other day that 3 things that have been extremely valuable for me to remember on a regular basis when it comes to my relationship and prayer is that God has always been faithful and always will be. He's always been there. He never left. There was a time that I walked away. And you know what? God always provides an answer. Sometimes I don't like the answer, but you know what? I know that it's always best. And that's what I get to experience when it comes to prayer. And again, it doesn't have to be any structured thing like that. I'll pray when I'm driving. I'll pray when I'm walking or just, whatever. I try to do more real quiet time in the mornings. And then I try to do some before I go to bed as well. But throughout the day, it's just talking to God. I believe he wants to have that personal relationship with us. So then the other thing that I talked about was meditation. And as I had mentioned, meditation is something I'm not great at it, but I do practice and try to get better at it. And it's just like anything else. The more we practice, the better we get at it. And I know people that are really, really good at it. And again, with meditation, there's many, many different types of meditation. I am no expert on it, but I do know I have some friends that are really into it. And there's guided meditation. There's, just quiet meditation. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. And so I just, I just ask you, try different ones. Find out what's out there. There have been all kinds of scientific studies that actually show the value to us as people when it comes to meditation and the value that we receive through that practice. Again, I'm working on it and want to get better at it. But that's just another way to really look and be intentional about our lives. And again, going through this process, I have met a lot of other people that have done a lot of the same things that I have and gone through similar process and that kind of thing. And we will all share the same thing about how when we do get into our prayer and our meditation, how much better our days are. So I encourage you, give it a shot. Spend some alone time and try to get alone with God. And a lot of people will say that praying is speaking to God and meditating is listening for God. And if that's your thing, that's fine. I have had experiences in meditation where I feel like I've been touched and heard God speaking to me through whatever it might have been. And a lot of times it's through a visual thing because I'm a visual type person. Other people will say they hear him. And for me, I'm much more visual. And then mindfulness. Mindfulness is very similar, but mindfulness really teaches us to, and I think this is so extremely important, be in the now. Be where you're at, not in the future, not in the past, but be in the now. Be right where you're at. Just like we are right here, right now. But I catch myself, oh my gosh, so many times where I am involved in something and all of a sudden, it's the whole squirrel movement, right? And of course, we have, shining object syndrome everywhere in our lives. And that's where mindfulness can really help bring you back into where you're at that present moment and being present. And that doing those things is very intentional, and that will help you to live intentionally, because you'll be able to learn things about yourself. You'll hear, you'll experience what God wants you to know. And not only that, but when you practice these things and you're mindful and you're present and you're in the now, you will be paying attention to other people. You'll be paying attention to yourself. And that awareness factor that we talked about just exponentially gets bigger, because you'll find yourself thinking negative thoughts or thinking positive thoughts, hopefully. But you'll catch yourself with those things. And so those are just a couple great ways. And I've kind of alluded to this. The other practice that I've tried to get into is not only it's starting my day with something like this and getting in the present moment and getting in the now and getting, for me, alone with God, to pray to Him, but also at the end of the day. And I know I mentioned that, but really reflecting on, what did I do good today? What did I do that maybe I have to go back and, as we talked about yesterday, make an amend for, or offer forgiveness for, rather than just letting it stew or go deeper in our soul. We just went through that process of trying to uncover and unravel all those things. Now we get to do it on a daily basis. So why not at the end of every day? Again, maybe you're laying in bed before you fall asleep, and you go through and you do a little daily inventory of what your day was like. Are there things that you need to go back and make amends for, or ask for forgiveness, or forgive others for? Because that daily reflection is huge. I mean, then all of a sudden you're freeing all that stuff. I don't know how many of you have had this issue where you go to bed and you're tired, and then your head hits the pillow, and then all you can do is think about all the stuff that's going on. Again, we're bombarded all day, every day with all kinds of stuff, and we have a lot of responsibilities. And it's a great way, if you go through this daily reflection, of really being able to quiet and just free the mind of all those things that are just cluttering it up. Decluttering is one of the best things that you can do, is just get rid of that stuff, because it doesn't have a place in there. It doesn't have a place in here or in here, and just let it go. And then the last thing that I really try to do through all of this stuff and the intentional part of my living is, how do I turn my attention to others? How do I, instead of being, as I told you guys many times, selfish and self-centered, and how do I turn my attention and be intentional towards others? And I encourage you to try that. Again, being present will help you with that. If you're in front of someone, be present with them. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Don't think about how you're going to answer. Don't think about what they did the other day to you. Just be present. Be present and listen, and turn your attention to others. Because when we do that, we're not in ourselves. And we become more compassionate, more empathetic towards others. And all that is about living intentionally. And all of this is going to be taking us to the E, which is tomorrow night. And it's such a fun lesson and a fun letter to talk about, because E, as you've probably seen on my Facebook page, or on the Facebook post, is expectancy. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about that tomorrow night, because there's a difference between expectancy and expectation. But for tonight, again, it was intentional. And, I hope you understood kind of all that, but it's really about taking all the stuff that we've done up to this point and now putting our attention on bringing that outward and living with intention and living with purpose, living consciously, and not letting all that other stuff direct our thinking, direct our path, but really taking ownership and taking, I don't like to use the word control, but really becoming intentional about what we do, what we say, the direction we go, and we won't get into this, but saying yes and saying no when people ask you things, and just being intentional because you have this life that you want to live on purpose now. I have not given you any quotes, and as I have done each night, I've got a couple quotes that I want to share with you. Actually, I've got one is Richard Rohr, he was a Catholic priest and mystic, and it fits so perfectly into this into I and intentional. He said, "We don't think ourselves into a new way of living; we live ourselves into a new way of thinking." And that's what living intentionally is all about. Let's live our way into a new way of thinking. And then the other one that I want to share with you is, and I don't know who said this one, but my goal is not to be better than anyone else, but to be better than I used to be. And I shared that last night about me being able to create a better past. Today gives me that opportunity to create a better yesterday for tomorrow. And so that's what living intentional is when I live intentional, my today becomes a much better yesterday for my tomorrow. So I'm very excited. As I said, kind of in the middle of this, I just did want to throw it out. If anybody is looking, to start 2020 and they want to achieve a brand new year and then maybe achieve some things that they hadn't, they want to look at their life a little different, please reach out. I've got some stuff I'm putting together for a coaching and mentoring program that I'd be happy to share with you. Because you know what's really exciting about 2020 is it can be a new year. And although it's just another day on the calendar, it is just another day on our calendar, and we get the opportunity of making that a better day based on what we've done today. So with that, thank you all again for joining me. I am humbled every time I see these names pop up on my screen. I really appreciate all you guys and love you and look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Until then, I am the BowTie Sober Guy. Peace out.